Where are we going?
Dunkirk.
I'm not going back. If we go there, we'll die. You're weekend sailors, not the bloody Navy. You should be at home!
There's no hiding from this, son. We have a job to do.
Turn it around!
Well, hello everyone. Hope you all have gotten out to a movie this week. This week, Grandma has gone to Dunkirk. Not actually the place, but to the movie. And again, anyone familiar with history will know the story of Dunkirk, the evacuation at Dunkirk, I should say, where 400,000 plus British and French troops get backed up to the sea by the German army in 1940, the beginning of World War II, or not the beginning, but early in World War II, and are evacuated by a flotilla of little British ships who cross the channel and save as many as they can.
Almost all of them.
Almost all of them. And now again, you say, well, why am I telling you the end of the movie? Well, again, it's history
It's history.
and everybody...
You know how it comes out.
People who know history know the story, so I'm not spoiling anything.
No, not giving it away.
Now, Christopher Nolan, the director, who's best known for his Dark Knight Batman films, splits the movie sort of in three parts, with the soldiers on the land, spends a week with them, the small, the man who's sailing the small ship across the what is it?
The English Canal.
English Channel.
Channel, okay.
Spend a day with him, and then there's a pilot up flying a Spitfire who we spend an hour with him. And we see the whole evacuation from their different eyes, through their different eyes. What do you think, Grandma?
It was terrific. I thought that was a particularly...
bad description of the film, but...
Well, no. The technique of the air,
yes,
the sea, and the land was a very good idea for those of us watching. 400,000 men. And did you notice? I did. How young they all were? I mean, these were
soldiers,
just, they weren't professional soldiers, they had been drafted into this war. They were the young ones, and they were so well portrayed by the actors that they zeroed in for us. Yes, if you know anything about history, you know what an amazing thing the rescue was. They put out the call in England, we need help, please help, and the people responded. I don't know if any rowboats went across. They had to have some kind of power, but little bitty boats, to bigger boats.
Little fishing boats.
Anybody
and things like
who
that.
anybody who had one, could go across the channel and rescue some of those soldiers.
And again, they had to do this because the Navy was being attacked by submarines and by bombers and other sort of German planes, so they couldn't afford to lose too many of those.
Every now and then we would check in with the general and admiral, people who really were in charge of the future of the Army and Navy and Air Force, and they were talking about how they had to rescue these men because the war was going to go on.
It was only starting.
And they knew that they had to preserve as many of their Navy and Air Force as they could, because, you know, the real push for the war is coming up.
So what was good about the film, Grandma? What did you like about it?
What was not good about it? It was really well done, I thought. Every possible danger that you could come up with in a wartime, I think, was there. It was very intense. I held my breath a lot for this story, although I knew, you know, that hope was on the horizon. I knew how it comes out, since it's a historic event, and very one of the highlights of World War II, if you can call anything a highlight in a war. It was really well done. What did you think?
I thought it was well done too.
Yes.
Again, it's a good film, and I don't really have much bad to say about it. I mean, I would recommend you see it. It's a good film to see. It's all about perspective in this film. It's all, again, you know, I would assume that these are true stories. We don't know that these are true stories, but again,
you mean the individuals that we follow?
Yes, again, you would assume that they're true stories because again, you know, it's not that long ago history. There are still a lot of people around.
300,000 true stories to choose from. So.
Yes. So again, I would assume, but again, it's showing this event through all their different eyes, from their different perspectives, and again, it's interesting to see how different their perspectives were. And it's also interesting as the film goes on to see how they intersect, because again, all three phases of the film intersect at several different points in the film. Mm-hmm. Because this film was not sort of a high up sort of general look at the whole thing. This was just one beach. It was just one group of soldiers. It wasn't all 450,000 all the ships that came to save them. It was some, again, because again, it was focused on these soldiers on the beach, this pilot in the air, and this boat that was sailing to try and save them.
Right.
It wasn't about the whole thing with a bunch of generals in some room somewhere guiding it and that
and
sort of thing.
the fighter pilot who
Yes,
was
so
there.
again, it was all about perspective, and that was, again, interesting to see them do that. Now, again, making a film like this, however, sort of limits, in my opinion, some of the dramatic sort of potential of it. And again, while the film was a good film, it was well done. Again, it was, I think, not. There's more potential to the whole situation than was basically taken advantage of in this film. This film is, again, limited to the small stories that we saw here, and you know, again, it could have been more, is all I'm saying. Again, but again, for what it was, it did it very well, and again, I would recommend it. What about you?
Absolutely. To me, this is a 2 thumbs up film. I was not aware of it. You know, I am an old lady. I mean, after all, this is Grandma. But I was just a little bitty when this happened.
Boop, boop.